see that that progress needs to be, and the benefits derived from that progress has to go to the entire community of California, not just to those in the peninsula and the Silicon Valley. We have a challenge. I mean, we have a lot of haves, and we have a lot of have-nots, and that growing level of have-nots is becoming quite challenging for us to make sure. So we have the haves and we have the have-nots, but we're trying to grasp is that middle. And I know with your help and all of us working together, we'll create a stronger economy and a better economy for the middle class in California, because that's crucial. And this is, you know, I look at the issues that I've been familiar with, that the Indian American community has brought forward over the last few years that I've known, and those issues are the issues that I want to champion, and that I think we've been working together on for many years, and will continue to do that as partners, because California is just as strong, and only strong because of the diversity we have, and that heritage that you bring to the community that is so wonderful. I've always thanked my parents for allowing me to grow up in the city of San Francisco, because growing up there, I was privileged to just be immersed in diversity and the heritage of so many cultures, that it just made, I believe, for me, a much richer person because of that, and certainly someone who appreciates the diversity and the distinction and the uniqueness of every culture that we have, that creates that American at the end of the day, and it's very special. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity. I'm sorry I do have to go to an event in Hillsborough this afternoon, but I do appreciate everything you're doing, and thank you very much. Sandy, thank you. It's great to see you. And Betty, it's great to see you today.
So Jerry, thank you for joining us today, and we'll take a group picture before Jerry leaves.
Wonderful, I'd love that.
And you know, firstly, what I would like to say is our Democratic Club is all about working towards the betterment of California and the local communities, and we look forward to collaborating with all of you to make that happen.
Absolutely.
So thank you again for joining us. We'll take a group picture if you don't mind.
Oh, be
and
honored.
come on, Sandy, please. And please join us. Please join us. One person will not be able to join us because we take pictures, but.
Looks like you're stuck.
Oh, if you don't mind, can you give it to Stephen and you can join the picture?
Yes, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Yes, here.
Come on. Let's make sure everybody gets it.
It feels silly being in the center here. Betty, you're there,
Betty,
Betty.
please.
Yeah, come on, Betty. I'm right here.
I'm fine.
And one more. Does it? Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. And what we got the commercial grade camera.
Well, it looks it anyway.
One more. Right.
Excellent, thank you.
And thank you so much for being optionally.
Oh, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna have a good time.
For the rest of the meeting, Jerry will end up talking about all your amazing credentials.
Oh, no, nothing there. That's, thank you very much. Thank you.
Good to see you.
It's great to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll talk.
Yes,
We'll talk soon.
definitely.
Sandy, thank you. Bye-bye. Take care. Thank you.
I didn't embarrass you, I could go back. Jerry. That already came out.
So David and Betty, welcome.
Thank
you for
you.
joining us
Let me
today.
go down and do some-
Yes, let's do that. Yes. So let's very quickly, Nirmal, I will start with you. Let's go and do a quick round of introductions. We all know Betty, but we'll be introducing Betty. So yeah.
Hi, my name is Nirmala Vanderpalli and I live in Burlingame and I'm running for City Council, Burlingame City Council.
Wonderful.
All right. Please.
Hi, I'm Dr. Aluna Chinakotla. I work for Kaiser Permanente. I'm just here supporting my friend.
All right. We need these supporters, of course.
Raghu Chinakotla. I work at Agilent Technologies. I'm good friends with Nirmala, good supporter of our candidacy.
My name is Satya Ramsadi. I work at HP. I'm actually supporting I'm Pradeep Gupta, and I'm councilman from South San Francisco, and I'm running for re-election for 4-year term in November. If any of you live in South San Francisco, please make sure that you know the right name and person to vote for.
And we all know Ash Kalra, council member, San Jose.
Yeah, and I just want to say I'm very happy that you're all here, and, you know, oftentimes we get involved in politics because we have a friend that runs, and that's what brings us in. I really hope that you stay engaged and get involved with the Democratic Party, particularly this new club.
Sandy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Sadhana Narayan. Everyone calls me Sandy. I'm an attorney for the last 25 years. One of the founding members of, charter members of SABA, actually, the South Asian Bar Association. I'm the president of the Hillsborough Democratic Club, and I was a delegate to the National Convention and the state convention, actually, recently. And I've been a Democrat all my life. I'm very proud of it.
Excellent. And I'll be introducing Betty and David. David, thank you for joining us.
Steve, please.
Oops. Sorry.
Take it.
Okay. So, Betty, delighted to have Betty, and we kind of thought that we may not have Betty, but she made adjustments and didn't have her. So Betty is a native, and I'm gonna go through these notes because it's a long list of credentials. I can't keep it in my head. I'm not smart enough to put it in my head. So native of San Francisco and a proud product of its K-12 public schools, and born to immigrant parents who actually established a laundry and dry cleaning business in the Parkside district of San Francisco, and operated it for 30 years. So that's the background, and look at where she is today. So she serves as one of the 5 members on the California State Board of Equalization, and this is the nation's only elected tax commission, and she represents close to 9 million Californians. So pretty powerful position, I think. And so it has, so during her tenure, Betty has actually served on the chairwoman of the board twice, and has been the designated chairman of the California Franchise Tax Board as well. She serves on the board of directors of the California Alumni Associations at the University of California, Berkeley, where she earned her undergraduate degree in sociology. And she's got quite a long list of accomplishments. I'll read out a couple of them. Enacting the state tax equity for same-sex couples, ensuring online retailers play by the same tax rules as Main Street retailers. So she's fairly invested in making good things happen. And so what I'm gonna do is put Betty on the spot and have her come and talk about, she's running for obviously state controller, and let's hear her agenda, her visions for the state. Big round of applause.
Thank you very much. It's really an honor to be with all of you here today. First, I just want to say I am completely supportive of your effort to launch your greater presence in our democracy. And it is so important to have our democracy be strengthened by the diversity that we see in this state, in this nation. And more importantly, every time I look at what it means to have a strong democracy, it really is about being sure that everyone has a voice at the table. And these voices are very important. And I think about my own background in terms of my family business and the business that my parents had growing up. And it really is a very common story, a common immigrant experience with respect to how many families get established here in the United States and begin to provide for a better life for their family. I also want to just thank Ash for his service on the San Jose City Council. Oftentimes when we look at kind of being the first among our community to serve in positions of leadership, it can be a very lonely experience. And I think part of Ash's really commitment to having the growing presence of the Indo-American community is to be sure that that experience isn't repeated for the next generations of those who want to step up and serve in our leadership positions. I really have a very simple message, and that is I've been campaigning all up and down the state for my next campaign for state controller. And what I have seen up and down the state is that people really do want to be involved. And yet what Senator Hill said is really true. We have a very struggling economy right now that is keeping a lot of people from being involved because they frankly are just trying to make ends meet. And we are seeing here, I was just saying yesterday when I was speaking to a group, when I started this campaign and outreaching to different communities 2 years ago, I was speaking about the poverty that has grown in the state. And that of those in poverty, 1 in 4 are children. And that was 2 years ago. And just last week, that number has grown to 1 in 3 are children who live in poverty. And so so this is really, I think, the pivotal time that we need broader leadership to address these issues. And I think a lot of what the Indo-American community has to offer is your own experience and your own values about how we try to make a strong community, and also how we really lift those up who are beside us and behind us so that we can have a stronger community for the next generations. I really have been very, very blessed in terms of my own family background, and even though my family, my parents raised 6 of us, and we were very, very blessed to be able to go to University of California. All 4 of my sisters, my brothers graduate of San Francisco State University. That was all possible because even though we were poor, we were rich in values. And I think that's what's missing today in our democracy, is really a strong commitment to values. Anything can happen when we have strong values and a core from which we really conduct ourselves and in which we lead from. And so that is something that I've been speaking a lot about because frankly, when we look at the divides in this country, when we look at the divides that even exist here in this state and between communities, I think oftentimes our common values are lost in terms of what it means to be part of a collective community, and certainly what it means to be a strong democracy and a strong country. I have been a lifelong Democrat myself, and the reason that I have been very, very active in the Democratic Party is something that stemmed from when I was 13 years old. Growing up in the west side of San Francisco, I was, as a child, my family was only one of 3 Chinese American families in an Irish Catholic neighborhood. And all 3 of the Chinese American families ran small businesses. And I was tasked by the 3 families when my younger sister was proposed to be in the inaugural class of the school busing program to desegregate the schools. And I was asked to, at the age of 13, to go before the school board at a local town hall meeting right at the elementary school down the street from my parents' laundry and dry cleaners. And the message that I was delivering to the school board at that point was this, that the families, Chinese American families, are not opposed to school desegregation, but none of us drive. And all of our children go to the neighborhood elementary school, and if anything should happen to any of our children, if they should become sick or if there's an emergency, it would take us well over an hour and a half on public transportation to go and pick them up. And so could you please think about using the money for the busing program to improve the quality of all of the schools in the city. Now that position didn't prevail, and the busing program became a decades-old program. What that left in me in terms of my own experience was that I was the voice. I was the voice for my parents and their neighbors who really didn't have one in the political process. And that stayed with me the whole time. And to this day when I campaign, it has always been about reaching out to different communities to say, we need to hear your voice. And this is, I think, the collective effort that you're all undertaking right now, which is very, very important. And I will say this about developing voices. And part of why it's important for you to do that is because it is the most empowering thing when you can have your own voice. It is yours. It is informed and instructed by your own personal experience and your own personal history, and no one can take that away from you. No one can take that away from you. So even the most desperate of communities that I've spoken to, those who have been from living in very, very poor conditions, to young people who don't feel like they have any sight of a hopeful future in terms of jobs and more opportunities for education, the fact that they can speak about their own personal experience, their own personal journey, which is unique, but shaped obviously by values, I hope. That is really what brings the richness to the table about how we are going to solve some of these major problems that we're facing in this state. When I first got started in politics, what was really apparent to me was that I, coming from the Chinese American community, was not going to be successful as a lone voice. And that what really needed to happen was a lot of reaching out across communities and being able to build coalitions and really collaborative relationships. And one of the things with the State Democratic Party, and I'm glad to see Deepa and Vineet here, welcome, is with leaders like Deepa and others who have taken leadership roles within the party, within the Asian Pacific Islander Caucus. All these caucuses that exist within the party are really great avenues to be involved. Some of them are identified by race and ethnicity, some are identified by professions and different interests, but these are very, very great ways to just kind of weave in weave in the identity of your community in terms of where you stand on issues, where you are in terms of, you know, your own history as, which is probably very, very similar to many others within the party. But this whole concept about working coalition, I can't say enough about. I look at what's happened within the Democratic Party, and we have a Filipino American Democratic caucus within the party. We also have an API caucus within the party. There's nothing wrong with that. There's definitely a very, very unique identity in terms of the history of the journey of Filipino Americans, and yet the API community really embraces that. And so that's really an example of where I think we can work more smartly, be a stronger voice, and yet at the same time not lose our own identity in terms of our own unique voice. I have had the great privilege of serving, as I think many of your representative on the State Board of Equalization since 2004, was elected in 2006 and reelected in 2010. And the driving motivation for my serving on this board really was my own family background. That when I see, in terms of what's happening in this economy, that we certainly want to continue to be the state of innovation, the state where we are promoting a lot of diversity in our economic sectors, but more importantly, in terms of our small business sector, that it continue to be a healthy environment for small businesses to begin to put their stake in the ground here, and then hopefully continue to grow and thrive. And what's been happening since the even during the Great Recession, is that we still have businesses opening up during the Great Recession. And many of them were small businesses, and many from within our ethnic communities, which was really, really a great, I think, thing to see, and something that I'd like to showcase. And I think the reason for that is because as we become more diverse as a community in California, obviously our tastes and demand for services become much more specific in terms of the kinds of things that are going to be serving our unique populations all over the state. But also it is continuing, I think there's a return back to basics. If you've seen what's happened with this economy, we lost 1.3 million jobs during the recession, and we're not going to get all of them back. And so many who have lost jobs are looking at other opportunities, and many are creating opportunities for themselves. And that's really, I think, the great, American experience and American story, because you can do that here. And hopefully our role in government is to support that, is to be sure that we are making it easy for you to do business here. And more importantly, to be sure that as you continue to grow and be successful, that you have the voice at the table in terms of how to make that happen for others. I will end with this, and I'm happy to take questions. When I ran for the Board of Equalization, and I want to just tell this story because it goes back to this whole idea about why your personal history and experience is so important. In 2006, the voters elected or my colleagues from all over the state, and I represent the First Equalization District. After November 2006, the board was comprised of 4 Asian Pacific Islander Americans out of the 5 members. And it was quite remarkable, and I was waiting for the story to be written about why Asians run for the board, and that it must be because we're good at math. And no one wrote the story until George Skelton, who's a columnist with the LA Times, picked up the phone and began to interview each of us, and he did write the story. And it was a great story, because the story he essentially wrote after interviewing us, and what I said to him was, look, we're all either children or descendants of immigrants. In my case, my parents didn't have the educational attainment levels or the language proficiency to really be part of the mainstream workforce when they immigrated here. And so the only way that they could seem to provide a better life for their family was to go into business. And during the time that my parents came over, you either went into the laundry business, the grocery business, or the restaurant business. And it was, and I said, and when you're in business for yourself, you better darn well be good at math. And he wrote that story, and what was so great about it was that we hear appeals before this board from small business owners, and it became just this face of the board that really understood what it meant for many of these appellants that come before us, who really are appealing their tax liability, but at the same time, it informed us about whether we're doing our job well and making it easy for people to succeed. So it's really, it's kind of a really wonderful relationship, bringing our own personal histories to trying to make government work better for the broader community. I am very, very heartened to be standing here as the only declared candidate for state controller next year. It's not to say others will not enter the race. I'm sure there will be an opponent. But what I will say is, I'm very proud of the way we've run this campaign. We are on track to raise the money and enough to win this race. But more importantly, this whole race has been about hopefully having a voice that's going to be very vocal about being sure there are opportunities for our next generation. Because so many doors of opportunities are closing, whether it's the higher cost of higher education. As Senator Hill says, we've got this growing income inequality here in California that really is going to be the greatest crisis, I believe. We can have healthcare reform, we can have immigration reform, we can have all kinds of reform, but at the end of the day, if we can't deal with this crisis of income inequality, we're all having to pay for all of that. And more importantly, I think as each of us are in our communities, we probably know people who are slipping through the cracks and really are not doing as well as they have been previously. So that, I think, is the charge of all of us in public office, and certainly is what motivates me as a state to really lead the conversation about tax reform that is more about equality and more about being sure that we have some certainty in our tax system so that those who do want to do business here in California know that the rules aren't going to change if they are going to do business here. But this whole issue of income inequality has to be addressed, and I really think that California can take the lead on this and really begin to show the way for the rest of the nation. It is a crisis not just here in California, but across this country and even across the world. When I read about China, recognizing that they have a growing income gap, and what they're looking at is nationally trying to look at policies around enacting a minimum wage. Look at policies about how can we shore up more in terms of investments in education that lifts those at the bottom. We know that we got to pay attention. This is really, we actually know what the answers are. We need to have the collective will to do the right thing. So with that, I'm very, very pleased to be here with you today. I pledge my support to do whatever I can to strengthen your voice in the democratic process, and more importantly,